Sam, and following up on the recent post that I did on the Kundalini and the nodes and Rahu and Ketu and the chakras and all of that, and following up with a little bit of kind of metaphysical yoga, sort of inside baseball about how all of that works. You know, many people don't realize that I actually got my start, I guess you would say, in astrology and all of this stuff in life with yoga. And I actually started doing meditation, like really deep meditation, many years ago when I was 19. And this was in the early 80s. And I wasn't really formally trained, so to speak. It was just a lot of, probably like past life stuff, just woke up. And it was in my Saturn dasha, and when Saturn went over my moon. And so the point is that my relationship with astrology even, is very much about spiritual practice and the connection to that which is really not of the earth, so to speak. The truth is, it's always been much easier for me to connect with all that than it is to connect with all this. It's taken me a long time, actually, to really have a stake in the world, you might say. And I really didn't until I started really studying astrology and then practicing it. Before that, I was into all this meditation. I never went to college. I didn't do all this stuff that people do when they're younger to, get ahead and gotta have a big career and a job and I gotta make a lot of money. I mean, I was just don't care about any of that. I basically wasn't really connected to that at all. I played music for a long time. I was a musician, singer, songwriter, making enough money to just kind of be able to, come home and write songs and play in a band or do soundtracks for films or whatever. It was just creativity, and then the spiritual practices, which started really young in my life, then carried over. So the point is that when I started studying astrology, started studying Vedic astrology, I saw all of that spiritual practice and energetics and dynamics that I'd studied for years and decades folded into this timing. The Vedic astrology is the timing of all of this soul potential unfolding, the actual karma ripening, the metaphysical properties like I talked about with the Kundalini and with the chakras and all. I had studied and connected with all of that decades earlier. Then once I really started to see the chart and understand all of those principles of the masculine, the feminine, the elements, the gunas, the purusharthas, the qualities of life, and then astrology as the science of karma that shows these things unfolding, and the timing of when those things happen, it just blew my mind. And I had studied some Western astrology. I was pretty decent at Western astrology, but I never really got so into the system of it. But I understood all the planets and the signs. They're all very common. But the point is this. The yogic practices that correlate with the chakras and with the zodiac and with the planets are vital and crucial and necessary to spiritual healing. In fact, whether you pay attention to astrology or not is kind of irrelevant in that way. A balanced yoga practice, and I don't just mean the postures, but I mean the breath, and of course if you mix it with some Ayurveda wisdom like eating the right diet, doing the right stuff, that approach to life balances out all of your karmas. People get readings, and then even in astrology, they want to say, well, what is the thing that I should do for my karma because of my dasha, because of my transit, and my this and my that? You do the same thing everyone does. You have to do some kind of spiritual practice, which is going to require some kind of introspection, some kind of meditation, some focus probably on breath and all of this. But what I wanted to share with you today actually has to do with the technique and the implications of the inner zodiac and the outer zodiac. So you have to understand that the chakras that the zodiac itself is the portrait of the chakras, where you have the sun and moon ruling Cancer and Leo in this chakra, in the third eye chakra, then Mercury ruling the Visuddha chakra, and through the masculine and feminine of Virgo, Gemini, then the Anahata chakra in the heart ruled by Venus, and Taurus and Libra, those two signs, the masculine and feminine, then the Manipura chakra ruled by Mars through Scorpio and Aries, then the Swadhisthana chakra ruled by Jupiter through Sagittarius and Pisces, and then the Muladhara chakra ruled by Saturn through the masculine and feminine signs of Aquarius and Capricorn. And this is a circuit that runs through your body. You've seen the pictures of the chakras snaking like two serpents, right? It's also symbolized by the Greek symbol, what's called the caduceus. If you've ever seen a picture of the caduceus, the Greek healing staff, it's like a staff that's used in healing. It's the same. They hold it and it's got these two serpents wound. Well, that's your inner chakras. That's your chakras. Again, what are the nodes? They're the serpents. Like I said in the video on the Kundalini, the part of the Kundalini, or the Rahu, is everything of the world. And that unembodied head that's going out trying to devour the world but not digesting it, and to join Rahu's head with Ketu's rest of the body is to take that head that's going rrr, and we put it on, we reattach it to the body, and then that opens up the inner space, the inner zodiac. So Ketu is literally the connection to the chakras, the energetic of the chakras internally, with Rahu and Ketu joined in the Muladhara chakra first to open it up and start that journey when the Kundalini rises. So one thing to understand, in order to do that, we need to take the fascination and the drama of Rahu out of the world and turn it inward. And we need to balance the sun and the moon, as it's said. Yoga is said to be, or Hatha Yoga is said to balance the sun and the moon in the third eye chakra. And one thing I'm going to show you is this thing called alternate nostril breathing. And it's where we use our fingers to close off different nostrils to balance the energy in the mind, because your energy is unbalanced. You might not realize it, but at any given time you're only breathing through one nostril at a time. This is what keeps your mind in duality, the duality of the masculine and the feminine. One of the nostrils, the right nostril, is connected to the sun and what's called the Ida Nadi, and the left nostril is connected to the moon, the passive feminine principle, and the Pingala Nadi. So based on your Ayurvedic constitution and the time of day and other factors, your energy changes. They say it's about every hour and a half or so. Your energy shifts from breathing through the Ida Nadi, through the right, and then an hour and a half or so later, you're breathing through the left. And if you're hip to those changes, of course, when it's going through the Ida, or that masculine, you should be doing more energy, more energetic stuff. And then the next 90 minutes when it goes through the left nostril, you should be doing more relaxed things, even maybe every other cycle taking a nap or something like that to recharge. This is the typical duality of life. Life energy vacillates between the masculine and the feminine, the assertive and the reflective. And that's the typical world that we're in. But when you want to break out of that world and you want to harmonize this duality, you do it with this alternate nostril breathing. And one of the things you do, for instance, is you take the thumb and the ring finger, you tuck these two fingers into the palm, and you place the thumb over the right nostril, and then you would inhale through the right nostril. With it closed, you're actually inhaling into the left, like this. Then you hold it. Then you exhale out of the right. Then you inhale in the right. Hold it. Exhale out of the left. Inhale on the left. Hold it. Like that. That's called Anuloma Viloma, alternate nostril breathing. And it balances the right and left and purifies the nadis, which are the energy currents that runs through your astral body. Your astral body is connected to the physical body. People ask me some questions about the chakras. Are they in the physical body near the spine? They're not in the physical body. They have corresponding points on the spine, just like the nadis are related to the nervous system. Just like your chakras are related to the nervous system. They gather around certain organs as well, the heart, the throat. The throat is an expression of the throat chakra, but it's not, the chakra isn't in the physical body. Again, understand this is not so mystical. For example, your thoughts are not in the physical body either. You have a brain. Is it the organ of your brain that is thinking? If you dissect your brain, there are no thoughts in it. Okay? Thoughts is an emergent from the brain. It means it emerges from the brain. And what makes it emerge is consciousness. Just like consciousness. Is that anywhere? Where's consciousness in the physical body? Get out of the idea that everything has to be in your physical body. You're not your physical body. It's the matter. That's all. Okay? And the matter and chakras are not part of the physical body. What animates the physical body? No one even knows. The heart doesn't just beat because of the physical body. There's an impulse. There's an energy that's generated perhaps by some electrical current in the body, but where does that spark come from? Where is it generated from? It's not of this earth. It's not of this physical world. So get out of the idea that everything is physical. The least important things in your life are physical. And yet we make them the most important things. All the stuff that has to do with this physical body, this physical world, they're the least important things. And the more you make them the most important, the more suffering there is. The more you think everything revolves around your physical body and your separate physical identity and the things you can get and the things you're afraid of losing, the more you're going to suffer. And you're not learning why you're here. So with the chakras, it's the same. They have a corresponding point related to the physical motor skill and energy that we utilize. But it's connected to a very cosmic principle, just like the heart. There's a physical organ in your chest called the heart. That's not where love comes from. Right? You have the physical part of your body called the navel. It's related to like courage and will, but that's not where your will comes from. It doesn't come from the intestines. Right? You literally have reproductive organs, but the energy that creates doesn't come, it comes out of the organs, right? So you get the point. So when you do this alternate nostril breathing, what it does is it purifies the energy current that's running through your astral body. And the more pure that is, the more vitality you have, the more youth you have, the more energy you have, because you're literally stoking the energy. There are other ways to stoke the energy too, which are purely Vedic. Which are purely yogic principles. But I'm talking about the more astrological concepts of the chakras and the inner zodiac. Now, by the way, I talk about all this stuff in my book, Yoga and Vedic Astrology. The first part of the book is all about this. It's very important, and most people study astrology with no idea of what they're even doing. I know people hear me talk about this sometime and they think I'm being arrogant or lecturing. I'm sorry, but it's true. They don't even know who they are, why they're here, what astrology is, why it's working, what's our karma, how do we interact with our karma. So this part of your mind that corresponds with the chakras are the different ideas in your mind. You ever wonder where your thoughts come from? They come from the chakras. Again, it's not anything that we don't already know. And it comes from the planets. This is why your karmas come into your mind first. That's why we read the Vimshotri Dashas are in many ways the most profound, because they show karma in your mind. And karma is in your mind. Your mind is karma. It was formed by karma. And so this duality of inner and outer, and this attachment with the world is broken by connecting with these spiritual practices. And here's what happens as we purify the nadis and we balance the right and the left. Eventually, both nostrils stay open all the time. So what do you think happens then? When you don't have, because when you have one nostril closed all the time, you're only getting half of the vitality. You're either in a sort of sleepy state or a restless, aggravated state. You're in a kind of passive state if it's the left open, or in an aggressive state if it's the right open. When you do this anuloma viloma, this purification every day, your mind becomes more conscious and both nostrils stay open, so you get literally more oxygen in the brain. But again, oxygen is the chemical. Prana is the vitality. Again, so where's prana? You can't find prana. It's invisible to our eyes. The scientist wouldn't say there's prana in your body. There's oxygen in your body, right? But a scientist wouldn't say there are thoughts in your mind either, because he can't find them. There's nothing physical about them. So what happens when you balance the right and left is your mind becomes balanced and it becomes stable. Instead of left, right, duality, this is the way your mind is all the time. This wave, that wave. So instead, you balance it, and then it's just like this. And then it's like, it becomes stable. And then what happens is the energy then starts to go deep, and deep, and deep, and deep. So rather than it being unstable and going out into the world, dispersing and going nowhere, because this is what we typically do. This is the Rajasic Guna, by the way. The Rajasic Guna goes sideways, and we're like going nowhere. We're just going back and forth. What happens when you start to stabilize that is the energy is never static. So instead of going like this, it starts to go, it goes deeper and deeper and deeper. It goes in and deep. At the same time, it goes in and up, which is sattvic. But let's say for now it goes in and deep, because we need to go deep. And what happens eventually, as you get more stable through transcending this duality of masculine and feminine, you see it in the astrology chart. The astrology chart, of which is your karma, is nothing but masculine and feminine, masculine signs, feminine signs, throughout the day. The earth is turning, it's going, there's a masculine sign rising, feminine sign, masculine, feminine, masculine, feminine. The earth is hitting all of those planets. This is your daily existence in the world, is all of this stuff. You transcend that with these deep practices. Your energy sinks down deep, and then eventually the energy enters the Sushumna Nadi, which is at the center of the spine. That's what makes the Kundalini awaken. The Kundalini awakens then when your energy becomes very concentrated through your intention. Yogic practices are best. And yes, there are spontaneous Kundalini openings, which usually freak us out and get us all kind of wacky for a while, and then it calms down. You know, believe me, I hear about it all the time, and people talk about it like it's the most, like they're the only one that's ever had it happen to. I mean, it's great that it happens, but it's just an experience. And we fall down from it. The Kundalini opens for a while, sometimes spontaneously. It happens sometimes, several times in someone's life, but then we come back, and then we just remember the experience, or it kind of compels us towards something more, because we now have a glimpse of something very powerful. But then what we need to do is then get back to that state where we use our intention and our will and our focus to intentionally go deep. And again, one of the things that happens, this is starting to get longer, I'll go a little bit more and then I'll stop, because it could get quite long, but eventually the preoccupation with the Kundalini stops. And see, this is what people tend to do. They tend to be fascinated with it. And again, it's a very Rahu thing to start meditating and doing Anuloma Viloma or whatever with the intention of, oh, I want to open my Kundalini and feel all that power and blah, blah, blah. Like, again, it's very Rahu kind of distracting quality, even to something like the Kundalini. People hear about it, they're like, oh, wow, there's this thing that's blah, blah, blah. Wow, I want that. And Rahu's like, rrr. But that's actually not what makes it happen. What makes it happen is devotion. I said it in the last video. Because what happens once you balance the mind and you calm down the heart is you balance all this craziness. And the first thing that happens, or what happens when you go deep, what do you think happens? You connect to the pure love in your heart instead of all the emotional craziness that we usually do, or that we're attached to. That's not your true nature. And so once you start to get that mind out of that habit, and you start to sink into the depth of your heart, you stop being preoccupied with these experiences. And again, we want to have these experiences because we're suffering. And we want to end the suffering and say, wow, there's this amazing thing that could happen. But what happens when the Kundalini awakens through pure ways is you're not even thinking about it. And if you are thinking about it or waiting for it, it won't happen. It happens through surrender. And surrender is a challenge, because it's the ego that has to surrender. But the more you balance the right and the left, which is the emotional pendulum that our mind is swinging on, and you go deep, 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 you connect with pure silence in the heart, and it's pure stillness, pure peace, and you're just completely present. And what you do is you connect with that thing that is the lesson of the Muladhara chakra, which is the deathless. You connect, you literally are established. You're not in your body. Your body has dissolved. You have become one. And it's not just a flash, because we all get the flash once in a while, but you are resting in a state of oneness, and the Kundalini opens. And you're forever transformed. Even when the Kundalini closes back up again, you might say, and you fall down from that chakra again, if you do, you'll never forget you'll have the experience. You'll have the truthful experience of transcending form. And you'll never again forget that you're not the body. And this is why I said recently, I've been doing videos on the houses. This is why the first house is a house of Dharma, because it's your experience. It's the truth of your experience. And every authentic spiritual breakthrough you have will be an experience through the body-mind complex. You can have all kinds of ideas about what all that stuff means, and it's irrelevant until you experience it. And the truth of how much spiritual growth you've actually had is simply on what you've experienced. And until you actually experience and are established in that deathless, the whole notion that you're just that you're not the body, or all these are just ideas that are ungrounded. You're not established in it until you become established in it through an experience. And so the experience of balancing the right and left, the sun and the moon, the Ida and the Pingala Nadi, through the Anuloma Viloma, basically what it's doing is it's purifying the whole Nadi channel, and it's purifying the entire zodiac, because that's what the zodiac is. The zodiac, the outer zodiac, is a reflection of the inner zodiac. Your natal chart is a portrait of your chakras. And when you do the Anuloma Viloma, the alternate nostril breathing, and other pranayams, what you're doing is you're balancing and harmonizing your inner zodiac and your inner landscape with the outer landscape. And once you're established in that, and you've brought the mind into balance, and you've sunk into the heart, and you've sunk into the beauty and love in your heart, the longing for something starts to disappear, and then higher dimensions of consciousness are unfolded. But they're unfolded through devotion and surrender, not through effort. You can't get there by your willfulness. Of course you have to take actions, but actions don't get you there. Karma doesn't get you there. Surrender gets you there. You take action with no attachment to the fruit. You take the actions because the actions are connecting you to the truth, not because your goal is the truth. It's because you're present, and inaction is impossible. This is what the Bhagavad Gita, why they're saying that. You have to be, you're always doing something. So when the thing you're doing is connecting to the truth through surrender and connecting to the beauty and power and depth of the heart, and when your action is surrender, which is basically the antithesis of action, with no goal, then the higher dimensions of consciousness unfold, and the power starts to elevate. And it doesn't happen immediately. It takes quite a while for the Kundalini to open. This is why a lot of yogic practices are designed to do that. Hatha Yoga scientifically will do it. This is why especially inverted postures like headstand, shoulder stand, build up a lot of psychic and mental and spiritual power, so that the body and nervous system can contain the Kundalini when it opens, because sometimes it can open, but again, our mind can't hold it. And it can lead to stress and fear and worry. But again, when it's opened out of devotion and surrender and love, then there's no fear involved. Then it's not some crazy experience that you can't handle. Not only can you handle it, you have embodied it. It's been unfolded, and again, it's a blessing that's conferred on you. No one knows when it opens, and when you're in that state, you don't care. You're not doing it because you want an experience. You're not doing it to get a result. You're doing it because you're connecting to a deeper quality of your consciousness. That's what makes the first chakra open, the Muladhara chakra. Then you're like, oh, then once the chakra opens, the expansion is even more. And then the next level of consciousness comes through, which is the Swadhisthana chakra, which is beyond the creation on other dimensions. And then Manipura chakra, which is beyond fear. And then higher dimensions, and you have to, they exponentially increase. So, spiritual practices related to the Kundalini, to the chakras, to the inner zodiac, very powerful stuff. If you enjoy this kind of thinking about astrology, you'd like my book, Yoga and Vedic Astrology.